Principles of sports nutrition.
Most of us are asymmetrical or one-sided athletes because we are left or right-handed, or because we're left or right-footed. Think of it. Can you use your left hand equal to, in terms of function and skill and athletic ability, to your right hand? And is the same also true with your right and left foot? Ask yourself this: is one arm stronger than the other when you're pushing against, say, a bench press bar or a dumbbell press? You can feel through experience, you can also observe in other athletes that they are essentially by nature, through development, perhaps incorrectly, that we are one-sided athletes. We are asymmetrical. Now, there are exceptions to sports, but most sports force us to use one side or the other because we want to use our best side. An exception might be a rower or a cross-country skier. These athletes tend to use both sides of their body in action. Maybe that's why they're such good sports. And they do not favor one side over the other when engaged in the sport correctly, although if we were to actually examine muscle biopsy and look at the athletes in action using an electromyograph, we could see that even when the sport itself is forcing you to use your body equally, there still is a tendency to favor one side over the other. Now, examples of extreme one-sided athletes include field event throwers in track and field, like shot put, javelin, hammer, discus. I'm a hammer thrower, for example, and I'm right-footed and right-handed. So I throw always in the same direction. I do not throw in the opposite direction. And that is because I favor one direction over the other by experience. Hockey players are also one-sided athletes, although there are some exceptions. Golfers, tennis players, baseball players, lacrosse players, the list is virtually endless. Of course, there are some athletes that have a natural gift and they can use either side of their body equally, but they are definitely in the minority. In fact, the actual statistic is 1 in 100. So only 1 out of 100 athletes are naturally ambidextrous, and the rest of us tend to rely on one side. Now, in certain sports and physical activities, we can willfully compensate and use the less dominant, weaker side of the body for the sake of creating balance or to improve our ability to perform. For example, we could run around the track in the opposite direction on occasion. Most people will tend to run around the track when they run around the track, always in the same direction. They don't think of going in the opposite direction. If you look at the biomechanics of doing that, you'll see that running around in the same direction all the time tends to favor one side, one group of muscles, one set of joints, more so than the other. It creates a form of stress and strain. It creates imbalance. We tend to push off the less dominant rear foot just before sprinting. But as a general rule, most of us are not ambidextrous. Obviously, less than 1% is the rule. Few athletes can throw a ball with equal skill or accuracy with both arms. Next time you're playing catch, try throwing the ball with the opposite arm you normally use and see what I mean. We were down at the beach not too long ago and we were throwing some stones and seeing how far we could throw them, and so we decided to have a competition, and the rules were we had to use our opposite arm. So if you were left-handed, you had to use your right hand and vice versa. And of course, we all looked like a bunch of spazzes. And we were all great athletes, each one devoted to our particular sport. But when forced to use the opposite side or the contrasting side, we couldn't perform anywhere close to our capacity. Now, we tend to rely on the coordination, strength, and function of only one hand, one arm, one leg, one foot, or side, especially, for example, when it comes to taking a penalty shot. In soccer, in the World Cup, watch when they take a penalty shot. Is the athlete going to use their weak foot or their strong foot or their dominant foot? Or making a crucial putt in golf, they're going to putt on one side. They don't turn around and do it the other way. So in these examples, the athlete will always favor their dominant foot, arm, or body side. So my recommendation is that we get into what is called unilateral training, which involves moving one limb at a time in a desired direction. A good example that I illustrate in my course material is a standing dumbbell lateral raise when you only use one arm. There are many, many examples where you can use one leg, one arm, and twist in one way and twist in the other. So there's all kinds of ways that in the gym we can compensate for our athletic activity, which in itself creates imbalance. Now, this is not just athletes. If you're a waitress or a server, if you are a construction worker, if you are a pipe fitter or a welder, you're experiencing the same phenomenon. You're going to create imbalance by doing it the same way all the time because of the way we tend to favor one side or the other. This is the great thing about going to the gym. We can actually create a form of balance that is impossible to create or synthesize on the field, in the pool, or anywhere else where we're playing the game. Like lacrosse, football, hockey, you name any sport, no matter what it is you bring to mind. I can challenge you and pin you down and show you how you are creating imbalance by actually playing the sport. So going into the gym is a science. Just like nutrition, it's all a science. Let's get real, let's face the facts, and let's create an optimal functional body that is highly sustainable. We all love sport. We all love the joy of doing what we love. That's the function of sport, to do what we love and to do it well with exceeding joy. So how can we do it when we're injured? Let's minimize the injury. Let's minimize the damage. Let's work some unilateral training into our training regime, and let's create some balance in the process.